Time is both a gift and currency. We all have been given 168 hours. You could have been taught how to do something that demands you incorporate business in your journey. But you may have not been skilled in acquiring people skills, only to find yourself having the skill to open the business that should bring about success for you, but your people skills have never been developed. And so you don't understand the importance of community, you don't understand it.
And then the community itself.
If I'm a 5, guess who I'm gonna more than likely hang around? 1, 2s, and 3s.
I enjoyed the seminar today. It was very informative. It will help me improve my life as I move forward in my next phase of life.
And there's an encouragement and a level of accountability.
I really enjoyed the class today. And this is the next season of my life. And this is very helpful for me because I'm an empty nester. And now it's all about Tina and where I should be going. And this is very helpful to me.
Because once you go into denial and excuses, you imprison yourself from all possibilities. Wow. Anybody have ever met somebody when they open their mouth, you say, well, I can't help you. The more you understand your vision in life, meaning this is what I'm trying to do in the next year, it determines what time you go to bed. It determines what time you get up. It determines what book you read. When life purpose is not discovered, life then is not appreciated at its best. Why? You disregard a lot of things. For a person who don't know their purpose, they don't have meaning.
Coach Ricardo delivered information that was educational, that's beneficial, and his content is always good. I want to encourage everyone, if you have not connected with the Effective Living community, you are missing out on abilities to evolve and grow. You becoming better each and every day.
As long as you're holding on to blame and denial, you'll never live life effectively. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back to Effective Living Live. Listen, guys, this morning we have a great talk that I thought is a necessary one as we're trying to capitalize on the fact that these days that have been given to us, we got to start studying ourselves and start realizing, okay, what is it that I need to know about me that can be looked into to help me become a better me? Okay, that's really what it's all about. I want to be the best version of me. And so today's talk, you want to share this. You want someone who's probably going through this as a moment right now. They're just going through in their head that am I okay? And is it okay to not be okay? Today I'm joined with this incredible lady who has just been doing her thing. And a few months ago, I thought I got to get Melissa on with me to dive into this talk. Melissa Prelow, how are you doing this morning?
I am well. Good morning. Thanks for asking.
I'm so glad your schedule allowed you to be able to do this talk with us this morning. We have people that will be watching this live from around the world. Tell our viewing audience a little bit about yourself before we dive into our talk.
Okay, great. So I'm going to introduce myself personally and professionally. So personally, I'm a native of Louisiana. So who dat? Okay. I am an HBCU graduate of Grambling State University, where I earned my bachelor's and master's degree in social work. I'm also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I am the mother of a son who is a sophomore in college, and I'm the mother of a daughter who's a sophomore in high school. So, and I work full time. So professionally, I'm a clinical social worker. supervisor. I'm also a nephrology social worker that's certified. I have been in the social work realm for probably about 25 years. I've worked in foster care system. I've worked in the school system as a social worker, but I landed my career for the past 22 years in the medical dialysis center, where I'm a dialysis social worker. I work with dialysis patients. Yes.
Well, wow, you're a busy woman and you've been putting in the work.
Yes, I
One
have.
one of yeah, one of the things I'm a strong believer in is that there is no shortcut to getting to that place that you ultimately desire. The work has to be put in. Listening to what you just mentioned as describing you put in the work. I mean, that demands a level of discipline and determination.
Absolutely, it does. And even actually, another part I didn't drop in was that I'm working on a PhD. So I stay super busy. And it's just more or less my desire to give back into the system that needs more information in dialogue form to people that need help, to despaired people, people not necessarily, but even other mental health professionals that could benefit from um, advanced knowledge about how to be a better person and how to help others along the way.
Let's dive into that. Here on Effective Living, our whole mantra has been you creating a life you don't need a vacation from. Okay,
Yeah.
and the concept is identifying that faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. The whole dynamics is that I'm trying to create a structured position that makes me be okay with me and the life
Mhm.
that I have. There are a lot of people who are not okay with themselves, and they have not addressed that. So they're not okay with being not okay because they have not done any work in figuring out where they are. Talk to us a little bit about that. Why is that such a strong position in so many people's lives that they don't even know where they are and they're not okay with figuring out the whole concept of where am I?
Mhm.
And am I okay? And if I'm not okay, why am I not okay? And addressing that and so forth.
Okay. Well, a lot of people they stay stagnant in positions of not being okay because they really don't know what they need to do. As I was looking at a clip of one of your videos where I heard one of the ladies say that she's an empty nester. So being an empty nester, you like kind of lose your way, you lose your identity in regards to just what you used to do, their routine, and now you have to figure out what you need to do next. So people have to just kind of branch out and see other parts of what they may be interested in, such as gaining new hobbies or doing things with friends, or sometimes it's just meditating. Sometimes being single and alone, sometimes people see that as a negative, and it's not
Yeah,
really a negative. I think it's a
negative.
positive
Yeah,
because it allows yourself to find out who you are, what you
yeah,
like, and what it is about you that makes you different. Because sometimes you
yeah.
can tap into something that you may have not been able to tap into if you were always around other people that you may
People.
identify with. It is important not to always be the follower. It is also important to become a leader.
Yeah, ain't that the
Mhm.
truth? Listen, what are some of the signs, in your opinion, when you look at people and you start realizing, oh wow, there are some very clear signs that a person is not okay, and they may not even know that they're not okay, but there are indicators that just are unhealthy practices or behaviors that just speaks to not being okay, and it's okay to not be okay because it
Mhm.
starts there. But what are some of the indicators that would say, you may need to have someone assist you with where you are right now?
Right, absolutely. So there's several signs in regards to identifying that you're not okay. Isolation, not wanting to be around other people, changes in your eating habits, changing in your sleeping habits. You may take on personal habits that you may have not been interested in taking on, like alcohol, smoking, drugs. Also, there may be just loss of interest in things, and then just the ultimate that has been, I would say, just because of the pandemic and just the isolation of people, is the thoughts of harming themselves.
Yeah, wow. the thoughts of harming themselves. I realized last year when we found ourselves dealing with this global pandemic that I started doing a review of my life, and I'm a big believer in assessment. Look at every facet of me in my journey to becoming a better me. I realized that we signed up for 30-year mortgages and couldn't stay in our homes 30 days.
Right. Yes.
When there was just so many people, they were living so loosely without paying attention to where they are, that when you those sliding into behaviors like that of isolation, what would you say for a person watching us to realize, man, I'm because it happens gradually. Would you say it happens gradually? And sometimes people don't pay attention to the fact that you have not been in you're not gone to a social event in a while. You're quadrupling the portions on your plate.
Yes.
I mean, you're bench watching television every day. You're no longer opening your windows. You don't
Right.
utilize the services that you once utilized. But people can find themselves gradually finding themselves into those bad, unhealthy places. Talk to us a little bit about that the process that actually drives us there.
Okay. So that's interesting to say. So when I was listening to you talking about isolation, and I mentioned the just a sign of isolation, sometimes isolation can be voluntary. So isolation voluntary, that has to do with, just maybe you're experiencing depression or sadness, or there's been some loss in your life, there's some changes that you don't know how to really deal with. And some people just go into their shell and they don't come out, they don't talk to anyone. And then the other one is involuntary isolation. And that's basically what we experienced during the pandemic. Like everybody had to go into shutdown mode. It wasn't any one that should not have, but because it was mandatory and was necessary because of what was going on in the world, the global pandemic. Isolation, it can cause a lot of thoughts to occur. So a lot of times when people go into isolation, they feel like they're alone, they're hopeless, there's no help for them, no one cares. And that's not necessarily the situation, because those are thoughts, and those thoughts are just thoughts. That doesn't have any type of reality to it. Just because you think it, that doesn't mean that's how it is. So when isolation occurs, people just kind of sit. They don't want to interact with other people. They may not want to take phone calls. They may not want to go anywhere. Like you said, they double the portions, triple the portions on the plate. They sleep all day. And a lot of times they don't notice that. Hopefully that these people have someone in their circle that can notice and pick up on these things. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't have the social support of someone that can pick up on that for them. So sometimes they can't identify till they're way gone, and then mental health therapy is needed to kind of bring them out of that.
Wow. Let's talk about sadness and depression. The difference. A lot of times people, it took me a while to realize there was a difference. Can you talk to us about the difference between sadness and depression?
So, yes, sadness is an emotion, and it happens to everybody, and it happens from time to time. And it can occur from, say, for instance, a loss of something, or change of plans, or being disappointed, or having to do something out of the ordinary. You may become sad about it. So it's something that's from time to time. Depression is also, it's a higher state of an emotional sadness. Okay. So it's something that's more persistent. So if someone becomes depressed, then it becomes something where they really lose interest in things. It's a deeper thought pattern where they can't find themselves to be able to dig out of. So I did write the definition for both sadness and depression because of the fact I thought, when it's defined, it hits a little bit different. Yep. So according to verywellmind.com, sadness is an emotion defined as an emotional state characterized by feelings of disappointment, grief, hopelessness, disinterest, and dampened mood. Now, as far as with depression, according to psychiatry.org, depression is common in a serious medical illness. So we diagnose depression, and that negative effect affects how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. So you can diagnose depression, you don't diagnose sadness, because sadness is more or less, it's something that's normalized with people from time to time, because we do get sad.
We do get sad, and like you said, you can move from sadness on to depression, which is a more major position. When someone's not okay,
Mhm.
what would you say is some signs that, I mean, in strategies, I would say, to moving into being okay,
Okay.
because a lot of people don't know what are some of the things they should be doing.
Some simple to complex things would be, say for instance, just trying to get out of that rut that you're in. So if you're in an isolation mode, or you're not feeling like talking to people, if a friend calls, get on the phone and talk with them. Change your atmosphere. If you're watching sad movies or movies that's making you feel a certain way, and it just kind of increasing that mood that you're in of sadness or depression, change it to something funny. If those things don't work, then it's always mental health professionals. I'm always going back to that, even though there is a strong stigma against seeking mental health, especially in certain cultural communities. They see mental health as something that's frowned upon. Seeking mental health is not bad, it's a good thing. And then
Yeah.
we welcome you, because it's okay to be not okay.
Yeah, yeah. The whole concept of our minds being sick or having an issue. A lot of people, they're okay with their elbow having an issue. We're okay even. I mean, nobody wants to have a heart issue, but we
Mhm.
can have heart issue. We got blood issues. We can have so many different issues in our bodies. But our mind have issues as well,
Yeah.
which is that mental state. Talk to us a little bit about understanding that it is something that can be treated, should be treated, should need to be treated, and okay to accept that you're working through that.
Right. So the many people have depression, and at some point, and we all fall on that spectrum from time to time. Okay, where we stay on it, that's a different story. So we have on the spectrum of mental health, good mental health and bad mental health. We all go through it. However, as far as with the depression and being able to identify like what we need to do to move forward, it's important to go through the series of acknowledging, hey, it's something going on. I'm not myself. My friends are noticing it, my family is noticing it. And a lot of times there are services that are available through, if we're working through our employers, there are hotlines that we can call, there are mental health professionals that we can reach out to. There's a number of things, but it starts first with that person being open enough to do it. Again, sometimes the cultural things stand in the way. There are the barriers to get us the help that we need.
Let's talk about that for a moment. We're talking about environment and we talk about association. I grew up in a space where, I remember the first time I was advised to go see a therapist because of what I was going. I don't want. What's wrong with me? Ain't nothing wrong with me. Why do I need to go
Right,
see no therapist?
right,
Only to discover it was one of the best decisions I've made in my entire life. Was to sit down and allow a professional who was skilled to go into my head or help me go into my head as well and figure out a lot about myself. That whole environment and association have a tendency of keeping people back from
hmm,
embracing that. Talk to our viewing audience about the importance of even maybe changing environment or distancing oneself from certain type of people who would limit you from getting the best help that you need if it's a mental issue.
right. So I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what you said about going into therapy. I was raised in, and still kind of the culture of my family setting is what happens in this house stays in this
Yeah,
house. You don't tell people your business. You don't
yeah,
know those people.
yeah.
And therapy is not set up because therapists have an ethical obligation to make sure that things are confidential. Having conversations with a therapist, it unlocks a lot of things that we may not even know that we've been holding on to for a long time. Sometimes it's just the conscious things that get us into therapy. Once we're in there, it opens the unconscious realm that we may have. And it may deal with something from our childhood that may trigger it. It opens up the triggers. It helps us to address them. But the venting part of mental health helps us change our thought pattern, because sometimes it takes somebody who's standing from a different side of the room than you to see a different perspective in regards to why you're thinking that way or why you're reacting that way, in order for you to get a better handle on, okay, look, I know something's wrong, so let me listen to this person. And therapists, we don't come into play to tell you what to do. We give you the tools to what you need, give you a toolbox and show you as far as what tools in that toolbox are for. And that could be the family support. If you have the availability of family support, utilizing that family support. If it's you have a church family or a community that you can lean on. And sometimes it's just, if you don't have that, it's meditation, not necessarily pressing religion or spirituality on anyone, but just going into that quiet place where you can just kind of sort things out for yourself as much as possible.
Yeah, I so agree with you. Let's talk about it, because you mentioned it like slightly just a while ago, which was pretty much those childhood trauma, and I call them secret wounds.
Yes.
And a lot of times later on in life, you find that if someone gets close to a spot that is what they call a touchy spot, don't go there.
Right.
And but you've not addressed that. You've not addressed that. It could have cost you your job. It could have cost you your marriage. It could cost you friendship. It can cost you a promotion, because the person who talked down to you, you're still holding that emotional, psychological, verbal scar that would have occurred, but you've not gotten any help. It's not okay for you to keep living like that, but you've become accustomed to living like that because you want to protect what I call those hidden scars or challenges that nobody else knows about but you. Talk to our viewing audience about really deciding to go in and do that inner work to make sure that they're in a good place for themselves.
Right. I mean, even though those childhood scars are there, and I think we all have them. I mean, some are bigger than others, some are deeper than others, some have scabs, some get pulled off and they heal up again. It's the decision for that person to say, you know what, I'm ready to address it. I've come in contact throughout my career in social work where there have been older adults way into their 50s and 60s still holding on to childhood trauma because it's a family secret or they couldn't tell anyone or it's an embarrassment. It's more or less that the contemplation to have that change, to address it. That's like when we see on TV sometimes, like some of these, I guess, celebrities, they come out and you're like, oh, I didn't know that happened to them. They were holding on to it. And it took somebody else speaking up first to say that it was okay. Sometimes we don't want to take that step forward to have that conversation to let somebody know, because sometimes not only did our pain maybe mold us, it may be able to help somebody else. So when we look into talking about dealing with childhood trauma or our past hurts and pains, sometimes, a lot of times, it's not only for ourselves to heal and be better, it's for us to pass on that to someone else to help them as well.
Melissa, let's talk about the fact that we have people who are watching us who they're okay. I may not be okay, but I've never sat down and really talked to anybody. You're telling me to go where I've not gone before.
Yes.
I'm not okay, and you're saying that it's okay to go there. What are some baby steps to would you suggest for someone to look into addressing those things that haven't been addressed? There's some baby steps that you would suggest.
Okay. So some baby steps with that would be having a conversation with a friend, a close friend, someone that you trust. Because a lot of times people feel as though, or individuals feel that if you If you tell something to a friend, that it'll get reported to someone else. So talking to someone that you trust, that's one step. Another step would be looking into community resources, something in the community. It could be a group, group work is just as important as individual therapeutic work. Group work where you see other people that are in that same struggle as you or have something very similar to you. Also, for those individuals that may have insurance or some type of benefits, a lot of times now insurance companies are offering behavioral health services. Just exploring that and seeing as far as what is available, and getting that comfort of understanding that, hey, when I have these conversations, that it's going to be okay. Also, say for instance, if a person decides to go into therapy and they meet that therapist, they don't have to stay with that therapist. They can fire that therapist and seek someone else that they're comfortable with. A lot of times you can seek out as far as if there's certain, like if you're a man, you may only want to talk to a man, or you're a female, you may want to only talk to a female. It just varies. You can do all types of variations into finding like the type of person you think you would feel comfortable talking to. Baby steps would just start with, hey, let's have a conversation with a friend about what's going on. And maybe, if you're comfortable enough, maybe that friend can accompany you to these sessions. It's being not being okay sometimes isn't okay, because it takes us down a path of suicidal thoughts and ideations, maybe even homicidal thoughts and ideations, and those things that once you do it, you can't take it back. So we want to make sure that we address those things before it gets to that point. So it's okay to be not okay. So we need to make sure that we can also engage in self-care. Another thing is self-care. Like self-care can be making sure you take time for yourself. If there's things that you like to do on a personal note, like for me, I like going to the salon. So that's my self-care for me. Somebody else, it may be going to the golf course. It's just making sure you break away from the routine and you do something that's special for you, that's meaningful for you. A lot of times we do things with other people that's meaningful for them, but it's not meaningful for us. So that's not self-care. So go and maybe hanging out with your friends or maybe people after work, that may be meaningful for other people, but that may not be your cup of tea.
Yeah. Wow, that's so good. Let's talk about confidentiality. There are a lot of people who don't think that word even exists anymore. But it does. And there are people who, as you mentioned, you can find a friend and you pay attention to those who are around you. You can tell this person knows how to keep what I'm talking to them about to, just between them and I. Or you can find that there are professionals, once again, they're clergymen, ministers, pastors are supposed to be persons you talk to in confidence. Same thing with therapists and professional. But there are some people who are struggling with that. They just don't trust anybody. They need help, and they need help to express themselves. But let's talk about the whole embracing the term confidentiality and knowing that some people really could be trusted even after trusts have been violated by or terminated by so many others.
Yeah, trust. Oh my gosh, that's a big, big issue, when it comes to people wanting to make themselves vulnerable to somebody else and kind of tell them their deep, dark secrets and what's been going on with them. It has to become a place of just wanting to move beyond it, wanting to feel better, wanting to do better, wanting to live differently, wanting to have a better quality of life until they get to that point of, hey, I need to do something different. They're going to have to trust somebody at some point to get them there. Yeah, friends, I saw something on Facebook. Facebook has a plethora of things that can make you laugh or make you even think. It says a listening ear could be also a running mouth. So you have to also be careful as far as who you tell things to, because just because you told them, that doesn't mean that they may not tell anyone else. In the therapeutic world, we're ethically bound for confidentiality. So for a person to kind of get to that point, they're already not trusting anyone. They're not going to reach out to anyone. they may not even talk to anyone. I would just suggest, as far as some self-care things, some meditation, and eventually getting to that point of having a conversation with someone. If, like you said, someone at church, your pastor, the ministers at church, clergy, it could be somebody even at work. I wouldn't suggest that at work, but sometimes it ends up being someone at work that you may be able to trust and talk to.
Last year I decided that I kept hearing the term. These were two terms that I wanted to look a little bit deeper in, and one was the skeleton in your closet or the elephant in the room. And I just sort of coined the whole concept that, listen, I'm going to release my elephant out of the room and put him in the yard.
Yep.
And I'm taking those bones out of my closet and I'm going to bury them where they belong. And that was what you just mentioned, because the way I was brought up, or culture to which I found myself raised and born and educated and so forth in, you just don't go there. As you mentioned earlier, what is said in this house stays in this house. I had to get to the point where, Melissa, where I said nothing's off limits in regards to me becoming my best self.
Right.
So when I sat down with my therapist, it was being able to freely express myself there and being able to freely express myself with my son. My son and I, we have very extremely candid conversations. I never thought I would have that level of candid conversations with him, but I had to get to that point. And then even as a minister and as a friend and as a life coach, I said, you know what, everything's open for a lesson. Because if I want to get better and I want to live free, I need to be prepared to let the elephant out of the room, and remove those skeletons out of the closet. There are people who they've been wanting help, Melissa. They've been wanting help locally here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Paid help versus free help. Sometimes I think, I suggest this to someone not so long ago. I said, maybe you may not need to upgrade your phone and just go ahead and go get professional assistance. Okay?
Absolutely. Yes.
What's your view on that? Making the investment to make sure you're okay, paying the price, be it as it may. You can't afford it right now, and maybe start with the free services. And then maybe, what's your whole view on making sure that no matter what, the paid, the free, and your opinion about both of those?
Okay, let me back up just a tad bit and then I'm going to answer that. So I think another thing, as far as like we're going to talk about, as far as individuals seeking therapy services, okay, is judgment. They're going to be judged, or they talk about, talking to someone, it's that judgment call. Like they're going to judge me, or they're going to label me, or they're going to think something's wrong with me, or they don't want to hang out with me. That's not necessarily true. That goes back to just that thought pattern. Thought is just a thought. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a reality. But for individuals that may need to get help, and just say the financial portion of it is an issue, there are free services. There are therapists that do sliding scale. There are groups that do sliding scale. I mean, sometimes someone gives you something free, it doesn't have the impact of you buying it yourself. Like if you're paying for therapy, you're going to show up because you paid that money, versus it's free. I'll be late. I won't go this week. Forget it. Versus if you're spending that, whatever that therapist rate is, you will show up. You will get the most out of your money. I guarantee the therapist will make sure that you're going to get your cup filled. That things are good. That elephant in the closet, elephant under the rug, we're going to pull him out. The skeletons in the closet, we're going to pull that out too and address it. And it may be very uncomfortable, but moving through the uncomfortable part is the hardest part as a therapist working with patients, is moving through that and letting them know, hey, it is a process. Everything's a process. Once you go through that process, it's a better person. It's a different you. It's a different person that people will notice, and you will not only will you notice yourself, but other people around you will notice.
Yes. Well, Melissa, we're almost done. I got a couple more questions for you. The pandemic, we had a lot of people who lost loved ones.
Yes.
The rate of loss among family and friends and so forth, work colleagues and so forth. There are some people who just not know how to cope and deal with that. Any advice?
Oh gosh, I mean, I'm right in that same boat too. I lost family and loved ones to COVID and patients to COVID, and it's very hard. It's I can't really say putting up boundaries because we already been put in boundaries already with isolation and wearing masks and vaccines and all those types of things. But um knowing that we live to die. I hate to say that, but that's kind of like the honest truth that we
It
live to
is.
die, and that there are things that we may have to go through during our life journey and that we see certain things. The loss of a family member, we never want to see that. We want them to live forever. It's more or less the being able to grieve and grieve appropriately. Grief is normal. Loss is normal. How we deal with it, it has all to do with all has a lot to do with how we come out of it. So being able to grieve, being able to grieve, but also live within those memories of that person, because that person is gone on, unfortunately. That doesn't mean like the memories or their spirit doesn't stay with us. It is, I think the pandemic has also increased anxiety with people as far as like being wanting to go out, that which causes the isolation, sadness, and depression. It's kind of like a cycle. But the pandemic, it has had just a very uh overwhelming impact on everyone, from children to the elderly to professionals to just everyone in general.
Yeah, it sure has. It sure has. Melissa, when you think of the term effective living, from the seat that you sit in, what does that look like?
Oh wow, it looks bright because I have a determination, for myself as far as effective living is, even though on my journey I may come across some delays in life. It may not happen when I want it to, but I know that it's not a denial. So it pushes me harder and it pushes me further to do more, to create a better me during that process. Because maybe what I thought was what I needed or wanted at that time, it wasn't enough. Like, nah, you've got some more that you can push out. Is some more that you have in you that you can contribute to other people. So effective living for me is being the best person I can be, and experiencing and also acknowledging that just because something may be a delay, it is not my deny.
That's so good. That's so good. Closing thoughts. We have. I wanted to do this talk. It's okay to not be okay. I just really felt as though there are a lot of people, and even a platform like mine's, I tell people, I'm talking about faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. I don't have it all together. As a matter of fact, when I was writing my book, I looked at that whole view and I felt, I don't think anybody has it all together. But we're constantly working towards becoming a better person, or trying to live life to the fullest. Any closing advice or thought you want to give to our audience?
Yes, absolutely. It is okay not to be okay, as the title says. We all are individuals. We all go through things. Life is a journey. And throughout the journey, we have to realize that we can be our best self, or we can allow other people to mold us into who they think we should be. Okay. So it's okay to be sad at times. It's not necessarily be depressed all the time. Those are all emotions. So how we feel, how we think, and how we act is all a cycle before us. So when you're feeling like sad or down, those are times that maybe we need to reevaluate, like, well, what is it, what triggered that? You could be in a happy mood today and a sad mood tomorrow. We have to understand what triggered that. And also look at this perspective of mental health services. I keep going back to that because that's just my background. I believe in it. I know culturally it's not accepted all the time. But a lot of times, even in my field, I've had some culturally diverse people talk to me about things that they've never talked to anybody about. And I could tell them, see, when they walk away from me or leave the room, that it was like something lifted off of, like their shoulders were lifted. They vented, they felt better, like, oh, I've been carrying this for so long. Why I didn't talk to anybody sooner? So those are things that, it's okay not to be okay. Therapy is not necessarily to label you or make you feel like you're crazy or put any type of diagnosis that's not true. It's basically to help you, because we all need someone to talk to. As a therapist, we need someone to talk to too. After we hear about everybody else's, concerns, sometimes we need to load too and just kind of get that part for us, so that we can help other people.
You're so right. One of the things we've been learning as clergymen, every pastor needs a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
It's so healthy. Melissa, thank you so much for giving us some of your time this morning. The information you shared was one that I feel as though is so necessary. I would love for us to do a part 2 to this talk in the future.
Absolutely.
We're gonna come back, because I just really believe we were starting to tap into some things that allow everyone to start thinking a little bit further than it maybe been thought. Because you can live a while and not address a lot of things that
That's
may have
true.
needed to be addressed, and signs that you have not addressed it is still showing itself up, and you could be free. You can be free
Right.
as a person to live life to the fullest. So Melissa Prelow, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. Keep rocking it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Blessings.